Even a blind man.
Well, happy New Year, everybody. Like I said, starting off 2026 with a banger of a piece. Ladies and gentlemen, I want everybody to just know this. This in no way, shape, or form is this an attack against anybody, or is this ever any going to be some sort of ganging up on people? You've got to understand that I have questions, and I've tried to go to the source for these questions. And when I've gone to the source for these questions, I was given that type of answer that nobody wants to hear. Kick rocks. You're just in it for drama. You're just in it for this. You want some notoriety. You want this. You want that. That is not what it's for. What it is, ladies and gentlemen, is my life was basically halted immediately. And not only my life, but my future based on other people's lies. So when I find out holes in their stories and people's stories, and I want to get to the truth of this, or at least get an explanation, I can't get it from the source. So I'm forced to go to the sources per se. And one of those sources, as a lot of you know, Chad Eros has been a fundamental piece of this puzzle that we have. Chad was the accountant and incorporated the Freedom Corp logo or corporation, let's say, and Chad was integral in trying to protect the funds that were to be allocated to the truck drivers. And in doing so, Chad worked diligently, hard in the background, didn't want no notoriety, didn't want anything involved with it, didn't want his name out there or anything. He was just doing his part. Like every other person out there, we were trying to do our part. And in doing so, Chad exercised his expertise, did what he could, but then Chad had some questions. And now that Chad's had some questions, Chad himself has been ostracized, has been targeted, has been labeled, has been canceled. But you see, Chad, like myself, kept his receipts. And tonight's episode is just one part of a 3-part series that we are going to bring forth with all of the originals, all of the people that were fundamental in getting this off the ground. So without further ado, I want to introduce my guest tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please give Chad Eros a nice warm welcome. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Pat. So we meet again at long last. It's been years since I've seen your face, like actually talked to you since the convoy. So how's it going?
It's going. Once again, like I said, Chad, you were an integral part to what was going on in the background in those rooms. My biggest thing was with Chad. So let's give everybody, I want everybody to understand how Chad and I were able to come together and how we first met. So as a lot of you know, we started, George, myself, and Owen, we're starting a thing called the Freedom Coin. And we were going to make sure that all the truckers had a Freedom Coin. And we were going to make sure that they all signed up. They were all given a free $25 coin. And I wanted to come and run it by the group at the Swiss Hotel. And when I came in at first in the morning, we sent the guys who were building the coin. And a lot of you know that Chad's kind of sixth sense kind of got in, but a lot of you know that coin was stolen. Okay, it was stolen by the David and Julio that stole the coin and took some funds that didn't garner as much as say BJ Dichter's Bitcoin did, but at the same time it did garner some funds, and we're still trying to get to the root of that issue. But in doing so, I sent these guys to meet with Tamara to have a meeting. And when they went in to have the meeting, they were pretty much told, look, this isn't where we're doing this or something. And they came back to me and said, hey, these guys really treated us poorly, very unfair. And what's going on? So I go down to the Swiss And I walk into the room and I'm like, yo, what the fuck's going on? I brought these guys down here. And Chad stands right up and he's like, who the fuck are you? And I said, who the fuck are you, dude? And there was a confrontation between Chad and myself. And ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't a good confrontation. It was we came to blows, not fisticuffs, but it was very aggressive. So in no shape or form is Chad in here like, is he my buddy or is he this or that? We were all there to do something. Chad didn't agree with what we were doing. I didn't agree with what they were doing. But at the same time, Chad, I'll let you kind of elaborate a little bit more on what happened.
Yeah, sure. So you saw things from your perspective. So I'll tell you what happened. I really wasn't getting involved in this coin thing, and I didn't even really understand it. Owen Swiderski, he asked to meet with me a couple of times. He met like in my small little room that I was at the Swiss Hotel. He was giving me a pitch about it and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, that sounds neat. And then, actually, I don't know if you know this, but he must have had some sort of influence because I heard this buzz about this Freedom coin, and I don't really involve myself much in like coins and stuff like that. It's not
Mm-hmm.
my forte. It's not my thing. And there was a screen set up, like a stock market screen in the Swiss hotel, tracking like the ups and downs. And they're like, "Oh, I heard some people, I'm gonna buy a coin, or I bought some coins, or whatever." And I was like, "Oh yeah." And then somebody came to me and said, "Hey, the like Freedom Coin guys are here. We're thinking of investing, but we just don't know what to ask and stuff like that. Can you ask these guys some questions?" So I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll ask them some questions or whatever. So I sat down at a table with the guys, the guys who were over at the Swiss, like promoting the Freedom Coin. And I'm like, so like, what's the purpose of the coin? And they're like, oh, to get money to the truckers. And I'm like, so what's the structure of the coin? Like, how did it start? And they started saying stuff like, oh, it's a registered charity. It's this and that. And I'm like, but a registered charity takes like months to set up. There's no way it's a registered charity. And then I asked a couple more questions and the guys couldn't really answer them, or they answered them inaccurately. And people sitting at the table watching me ask them questions said, "I'm out. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
No way." And then Danny Bulford stood up and he like I'm not blaming Danny Bulford. I kind of think he kind of looked at them because I think his parents were there and his parents were thinking of investing. And that's why they asked me to come, is because Bulford's parents wanted me to ask questions to see if they felt like it was legitimate or not. So then I asked the questions, and then Danny Bulford said, "Look, guys, this is not a place to peddle coins. Like, you need to go. This is not what this is about. This is a protest, yada yada." Then I guess this is from filling in the blanks of what you just said. They went to
Yeah.
you and got you, George, and Owen. And this is what I remember about you guys coming in. I'm chowing down, eating some food, and then all of a sudden the door opens to the Swiss like lounge, and Owen points at me and goes, "That's the effing guy right there, that effing clown." And I like look up from my like pasta or whatever, and I'm like, "Huh?" And I'm like, I just like stood up, threw the chairs aside, and I was like, "What the f?"
Yeah.
And then we were like face to face, and yeah, it was pretty tense. And then things calmed down, and then basically I got a whiteboard out, and I said, "Okay, Pat, like, what's going on?" I remember the trucker captains came in, and Chris Barber came in, and all these people
Yeah.
came in, and I asked you questions, and I was drawing pie charts. I'm like, "Hey, who owns the original coin? Who originated the coin, and when the coin goes up in value, who benefits from that?" And all these, and you were answering them. And no offense, Pat, but I didn't get the sense that you this was your idea and that
It
it was
wasn't
your.
my idea.
I mean,
No.
I no offense, but I don't think you're a Bitcoin guy.
No.
So
No.
so anyways, I got so at the time it kind of looked like these guys had this idea, and they were using like your image and your notoriety and stuff to create this coin. And I didn't know till now. that that people stole the coin or something like that?
Yeah, so those two guys ended up, long story short, I get arrested. There's a whole debacle ends up happening. They change the name on the coin. We have an investigation. We're trying to track them down and get it, but we've got all of the paths because of blockchain. We can find and track the path of every coin, and we just have not got to it to determine where all that money went. We know who took it. It was those two gentlemen, David and Julio, that you met. We can't determine whether Owen was involved with it at all, but we do know that there's speculation, and that's drama for a whole another
Yeah,
time.
yeah, exactly.
But that's how Chad and I met. Okay, so where
Tangent.
all of this was coming from for each of us, that's how we were. Our first interaction was. It wasn't a good one. Okay. So this is where Chad was in the background. And Chad, what was your role when you were there? What was your integral role that you were assigned with?
Yeah, yeah, basically, making sure that things were set up properly, that there was, that funds could be received and dispersed in a proper manner, that was, um, beyond reproach, so that there was transparency and legitimacy, that the authorities, if they looked into things, couldn't question it. So I was like, this is, we have to set things up this way. We have to do business this way. We have to, you know, if you want to do this good thing, which is to, basically, raise money so protesters in like January and February, like -30, -40, -50 degrees, they don't run out of gas on the highway, they don't freeze, blah blah blah. This is how things have to be set up. And at the very beginning, when I met the original finance committee, it was like these ladies basically volunteering at their kitchen table, and they seemed like really nice people. And I'm like, I asked them stuff, like, I don't beat around the bush. That's
Mhm.
how we had an interaction. Like,
Yeah.
and I asked them some questions, and then in an email to them, I said, well, okay, this seems like you're just some nice ladies who are volunteering to help the truckers. And yeah, I'll help you out. That's how I first started getting involved. And Chris Guerra got me involved because before COVID, he was questioning the government on these mandates and stuff like that. And he ended up in this circle, right? Birds of a feather end up flocking together. That's just the way life goes. And
Yeah.
he said this group needs some help, and I determined that they just seemed like some nice grassroots people. There wasn't anything like weird behind them, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll help you. You know?
We thought.
Yeah. Well, I think like these people's names are out there, and so I'm sure they're okay with me saying it. But like Helen Gazika, she's just like a bookkeeper or something like that. Just, and very conservative, very like, and I know she seemed like a very proper person. And like Christina Canyon, she seemed like pretty on
I
the
like
upbeat.
Christina. I thought Christina was a good salt of the earth, kind of down there for the
Yeah.
right reasons.
And I met them for, like, I talked with Christina via email quite a bit at the
Mhm.
beginning.
Yeah, because
I
she stayed
never,
back in medicine.
well, no, she was in Chilliwack at the time.
Or Chilliwack, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so I didn't really talk to her actually till like after the convoy, and but only through email. And then Helen I spoke with on the phone and stuff, and she was very like on the up and up too. And I didn't even actually know who Tamara Leach was until probably like a week later.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know, I only dealt with these
Funny, I
people.
hear that from everybody.
Yeah, yeah, I did. Like, these people were doing all the work, and and they actually started to complain that they weren't hearing from her anymore, and that she basically abandoned them and wouldn't answer their emails, wouldn't answer their phone calls, wouldn't answer their texts.
Hmm.
And Christina at one point just threw her hands in the air and said, like, I'm done. She's like, you take over. She's not answering me anymore. So, and I was like, well, I'm not agreeing to like taking over from you guys, but um anyways, I'll leave it there. Yeah.
So that being said, when did you initially get involved with the convoy. And ladies and gentlemen, so Chad is an accountant. He is a chartered, correct?
Yeah, it's called CPA now, Chartered Professional Accountant. Yeah.
Right. So how did you, because you weren't with us on the road,
No,
how did you get involved? Like
no.
there's
So I was just
sides
like
to
a
how you got there. So
yeah. So like before the convoy, my wife and I we would go to like meetings and stuff like that to basically like like at one point we met in this big Quonset with hundreds of people and we are just like, what the heck is going on? Like, why is it? What's up with these lockdowns and stuff? And people are telling their stories about their dads and grandparents dying from the COVID shots and things like that. People were grabbing microphones and talking, and so this is what's going on with me. Before my wife set up like a negative testing COVID clinic that was cheap for them, and we were
okay.
doing like little things like that. Like we were no heroes or anything. We were just part of a community that had questions. And then the trucker protests happened, or the trucker convoy, and like I was talking to my wife, and she's like, I only knew about it because I kept seeing this Pat King guy show up in like Facebook and stuff. So she never heard of Tamara, she never heard of Chris Barber or anything like that. And we knew that it was basically coming through Moose Jaw because of basically your group. And then we went out on the highway, out by this paintball place, and we had a big bonfire and fireworks for the guys coming through. My kids were with us. It was so cold. It was like minus 40. My
It was
kids,
freezing.
oh, it was so cold. And then our kids wanted to meet the truckers because they thought they were movie stars and heroes and stuff like that. My one little boy's like, Dad, can I go meet a trucker? And this guy pulled over and he was telling a story about how the Hutterites were giving him food on the way. And it
Yeah.
just seemed like a really good grassroots thing. Like, and I was just a fan. That's it. Then Chris Guerra, he said, Hey, Chad, I was in this meeting with people. And Chris Guerra and I know each other from living in Chilliwack, BC. That's a coincidence between us and Christina Kenyon because I think she moved to Chilliwack quite a bit after I left. And we knew each other from like church circles and stuff. And I did a GoFundMe for someone who lost their husband and he had 6 kids and it was a really tragic situation. And Chris and I were involved in that. And this is a group of like really good people. And then I moved back to Saskatchewan and Chris moved back to Ontario, but we kept in contact over the years. And then Chris basically said to me, "Hey Chad, these people need help with GoFundMe, right? Connect the dots.
Yeah.
I was a CPA and a business consultant, and I worked for the top banks in Vancouver, and I did a lot of. I understood banking. I understood lawsuits. I did work for lawyers for lawsuits and things. I did all sorts of stuff. And Chris would drop by my office in downtown Chilliwack, and he'd sometimes just sit there and visit with me, and because we knew each other. Then, so
Mhm.
when they said they were having trouble with GoFundMe, he said, "Hey, I know a guy. He could probably help you." And that guy was me. And then I started communicating with Christina and Helen. And then finally on January 30th, I ended up in a group call with Tamara and Jeff Rath, Russell Hebert, and a lady named Sandra Sable. And I was like, "Okay, lawyers, like Jeff Rath is a lawyer. He's like the leader or one of the leaders of the Alberta separatist movement. Russell Hebert was a MP for the Stephen Harper era." And I just wondered, like, I'm like, you guys, if this money gets transferred the wrong way, the government or the bank is going to freeze the money. I work for banks. Whenever we get nervous about money, we just freeze it and say, what the heck is this? And we either
Okay.
hand it over to the courts or. So I was trying to really get on them about setting up something. And at the end of the call, I still didn't feel satisfied that Tamara or that finance committee got the proper advice. So I hung up the phone and I like incorporated a nonprofit organization called Freedom 2022 Human Rights and Freedoms, which people call Freedom Corp. And then
Mm-hmm.
I sent an email to these people and I said, look, I incorporated this thing and I put Chris Garrett and me on as provisional directors. Like a provisional director is just like a placeholder until it's actually really set up for real.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I set this up with Chris and I as provisional directors. I put his address as the corporation address because it's in Ontario. If you want to use it, use it. If you don't, then I'll give it to someone else.
Correct.
Because
Yeah.
yeah. So anyways, that's like that is the origin story of Freedom Corp, which ended up having standing at the POEC hearings on
Yeah.
behalf of the truckers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you incorporated Freedom Corp, helped them with the GoFundMe.
Yeah, I was helping them with the GoFundMe, helping them with their responses to the GoFundMe. Yep.
So you've been in. So here's where it's going to get juicy, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody's been asking, where in the hell's the money? What's going on with the money? What this and that? What is Pat? Where is it? I have no idea. And
They're
Chad
still
can attest.
asking.
I have nothing to do with this money, ladies and gentlemen. Chad is the chartered accountant that had. I'm not on any paperwork for any of it. But what
Yeah.
Chad did do for them was he was involved in meetings with GoFundMe and was sat in with meetings to give them answers to their questions because, ladies and gentlemen, GoFundMe was not putting this money out if it wasn't getting allocated to the destination that they had already set down, that this was going to the truckers. This was not going to go into personal bank accounts. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, I was warning the original finance committee, do not let this go into Tamara Leach's personal bank account. That's a bad idea. Well, they started to get impatient. And so after now I don't want to take any like glory for GoFundMe agreeing to release money because I think Helen and Christina did like 99.9999999% of the work. And basically
Mm-hmm.
all I did was take their stuff and I like to say this, I got out my crayons and I made my chart like this is how it's gonna go, whatever, to make it easy for GoFundMe because I figured they're probably bankers like me and they just want it simple. Like the
Right.
more complicated, the worse it is. The simpler it is, the better it is. So I like just kind of like made this little chart or whatever, and then gave it to the finance committee. Finance committee gave it to Jeff Rath, and he tinkered with it a bit. Then they sent it
Jeffrey
to
Rath. Jeffrey Rath had his hands in on this. That's interesting. Carry on.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. He was the original convoy lawyer. Jeff Rath is the original convoy lawyer. Then he passed it off to Keith Wilson. So so um so then after I helped a little bit, they released $1 million, and I said, guys, it's not, you didn't agree to send it to Tamara Leach's personal account, did you? And they're like, yeah, we just wanted to get it over with. And I'm like, that's not good. Um,
Mm-hmm. So $1
because
million was released to Tamara's bank account, personal bank account.
yeah, and so I don't, my take on this is that I don't think they really knew what they were doing. And with lawyers involved, that I was like, how can lawyers not know that this is a bad idea? Like, how can they not advise, no, we need to set this up properly and stuff. But
I
I guess,
advised Tamara long before this even started to not do the GoFundMe because the first thing going to be frozen is the GoFundMe. Now, ladies
yeah,
and gentlemen, the fact that the $1 million, this is no news to anybody who's been paying attention. This is all part of the Public Order Emergencies Commission. This is all out there in the public already. We know about it. Tamara did not get the money. It is frozen. We're going to go into details with that as well. So just
yeah,
before anybody thinks that we're going at Tamara saying she took all this money was actually
no,
frozen because the GoFundMe should have never been released into a private bank account. Am
right.
I correct in saying that, Chad?
So, yeah, so basically that's correct. GoFundMe released $1 million into Tamara Leach's personal bank account. This is like Pat said, all of this is public information on the POEC website. All the documents are there. Testimony has already been done. Hours and hours of testimony, tens of thousands of documents. All the TD documents have been uploaded. It's all public information. You just have to know how to search for it. And so basically, yeah, eventually on basically I think February 7th we went into TD Bank. Tamara Leach and I went to TD Bank. to do a wire transfer to pay for the flights of the lawyers, because the flight for the lawyers to get out there was $64,000 on a chartered aircraft, and they weren't paid. And
Mm.
a part of the contract for JCCF was that they wanted Tamara to pay for their flights and accommodations. So we went to TD Bank to do that, to pay for the flight. And when I filled out the paperwork, because she wanted me to help her do the wire transfer because she wasn't sure how to do it. So on the POEC documents with all the handwriting doing the wire transfer, that's my handwriting.
Mm-hmm.
I fill it out, and then the bank teller says, sorry, there's a problem. So her and I go sit down in the lobby, wait for someone to come talk to us, and they're like, we can't do the transfer, the funds are frozen. And yeah,
So
the fun
this is what Chad's talking about right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is where Tamara's asking the Justice Center lawyers and Keith Wilson want to fly them out, cost $64,000 plus GST to fly them round trip. It could cut in half of the. It could be cut in half if they fill the plane with people to return back west today and people to fly out east when the plane goes to get them on Sunday. If you don't think the truckers even care about having all these lawyers there, I'll cancel all the flights. That's a lot of money. Okay, so I just wanted to put that up there just so we're putting receipts to the accusations that we are making claim, and it's all going to make sense in a little bit here. Just let Chad kind of slowly build this up.
Yeah. And so, like, I'm not really accusing anybody of anything. I'm just, all I do is tell you facts. Like, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, so basically the TD says the funds are frozen. We go back to the hotel, and then one of the lawyers who was on the team, Tim Turple, he's a lawyer from Saskatoon. He doesn't work for JCCF. He's kind of like Keith Wilson. He's like an independent guy. He emails us and he's like, yeah, I know why it's frozen. It's called an interpleader claim. And interpleader claim by a bank says it's basically this: we don't know whose money this is. We don't know who to give it to. We don't know why it's in this account. So we're giving it to the Ontario courts to decide whose money it is and how to give it to them.
Yeah.
Um, so Tamara lost all that money along with all the GoFundMe money. She also lost almost $400,000 of e-transfer funds. So it was almost $1.4 million sitting in her personal bank account that
One
she lost.
point
Yeah.
three nine three 406.98 was in Tamara's personal bank account. And this is what's called a forfeiture order. And this is, they went after the bank account. Then this is what led into, so if for everybody who doesn't understand why I'm bringing this up, this is why, and the first front door that the government was given to justify freezing bank accounts. All right. And this is because, ladies and gentlemen, my bank accounts were frozen for 3 freaking years. And it could have all been stopped long before. And Chad over here, sorry, I'm on mirror. So Chad was trying to have that stopped.
So yeah, like I wouldn't speculate that this is like ground zero for everybody's bank accounts being
It's
frozen.
ground zero where it started for me.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, this is probably the first instance of a freeze. And just so people know, TD handing all the money, I'll just call it 1.4 million because it's like 7 grand shy of 1.4. So TD handing the 1.4 million dollars over to the Ontario courts was their decision, their move. It wasn't mandated by the government. Then
But under government regulations,
I
that's what
guess,
they
I
have to
mean,
do.
they yeah, because if you want to hold money for a third party in a bank account, you either have to create a trust account,
Mm-hmm.
or you have to create a nonprofit organization or a charity that collects money and distributes it for the intended purpose and cause. That's what you have to do. So, so basically, TD basically said, well, Tamara's collecting money for a third party, the truckers, and this is their money or somebody's money, and we don't know whose it is, so we're gonna hand it over to the Ontario courts. The other thing too that probably didn't make this look good is as soon as she got to Ottawa after riding shotgun with Chris Barber, for some reason, she decided to make Chris Barber a joint account holder on the 1.4 million bucks. Um, I think so this is speculation. I don't know why she did that, but she seemed to be really trigger shy, not trigger happy on spending the money. It seemed like she wanted to like make somebody else spend it or put their name on spending the money, therefore she wouldn't spend any of it. And I this is like in my witness summary to the POEC. I'm like are you going to do something with this money or not? Like I
Hmm.
know GoFundMe basically kind of is trying to tie your hands to the regarding the intended purpose of the funds. Like you can't finance bad stuff, you can only finance good stuff, like. And so but I said to her, like, if you want to pay for these flights and use the 400,000 you raise with e-transfers, why aren't you doing that? Like if you promised Chris Guerra that you'd give him money for porta potties so people wouldn't have to pee their pants at the protest, then why
Yeah.
aren't you giving him that money? And that's why Chris Guerra had to start Adopt a Trucker, because she asked him to go there a week early and make sure things were set up properly so that there was order and all that sort of thing. Like what kind, just think of this. I'm going to just pause here for a second. What kind of evil protesters, like evil in quotes, make
Hmm.
sure that there's order, there's like cleanliness, there's all this stuff. I mean, these people were good people. All of these people were grassroots good people. And so Chris, in good faith, believed that he would get some money from all the hundreds of thousands of dollars that were being raised. But then when he asked for it, he didn't get any. So
Right.
then he had to start putting all this stuff on his personal credit card. He had to start paying for porta potties using his own bank account, his own personal credit card. And he was like maxed out, not getting nothing. So
Hmm.
then Chris is
We
like
all were.
freaking out, starts his own thing, Adopt a Trucker, and then he started to like reimburse his credit card and stuff like that. And by the way, Chris Guerra's all his fundraiser expenditures, everything was went through by auditors, basically to dissolve the freezing of the funds.
Hmm.
They found him to be squeaky clean, and they dissolved the Mariva injunction. A Mariva injunction is a freeze on funds because of a class action lawsuit against us started by Zexi Lee under Paul Champ. So it freezes all current and future funds raised. And I'll say that again, future funds raised. We couldn't even raise future money because any dollar that came in would have to be set aside um, to be made available for people to sue us. So the like a select group of Ottawa people decided they wanted to sue the protesters.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, that's kind of the origin story, I guess, of the Adopt a Trucker thing too. And if you ever want to talk to Chris Guerra a little bit more about his origin story and why he had to start Adopt a Trucker, I'm sure he'd talk to you.
Well, and like it's another thing is in the second part we're going to do the original ones that started getting things organized, getting things rolling. Chris was one of my guys. Chris was like when Chris said he was going a week early, I kind of chuckled because I was like, Tamara had him go there a week early. Yeah, we,
There you
it
go.
is what it is. We'll
Yeah,
say
I maybe I shouldn't. Yeah, if I got that wrong, I got that wrong. So
all good.
if you and Chris agreed that Chris would go early and help set up, that's cool. That would be a clarification in the story.
Yeah.
Um and um
In fact,
yeah.
Chris was integral in getting the permits for us to be
Mhm.
downtown. Chris was working in the background. Now Chris is going to be on the show, so I'm not going to steal anything from him, but we're gonna allow Chris to say his piece on the next episode when we do this. But so now you do all this stuff. Okay, you're in the background. How did you get to Ottawa?
Uh well, just yeah, I'll back up a bit. At the time I was a teacher at a polytechnic school teaching accounting, finance and all that stuff. So I'm on the phone with Tamara, and then by the time, so I guess I should back up a little bit more. While I'm teaching and stuff, I'm just getting a little bit more information, and people, things are happening that are freaking people out. So one of the things that happened is I got a call from a guy named Thomas O'Connor. And
Okay.
I remember Keith Wilson testified that nobody at the convoy knew each other. Everybody got to know each other because of the convoy, and the only two people that knew each other before the convoy was Chris Garrett and me. And obviously, George Billings and some other people before the convoy. So, anyways, little bit of an exaggeration there by Keith during the POEC testimony. So
I would
Thomas
expect a lie
O'Connor,
from a liar.
yeah. So Thomas O'Connor was going to the biker church with Danny Bulford and a guy named Serge, and I think those were three people, and they're good people, and they were involved. So anyways, Danny
Yeah.
Bulford, um, he's originally from Alberta, and he was a
Hmm.
part of a group called Taking Back Our Freedoms, which is from Alberta. And Jeff Rath was a director on Taking Back Our Freedoms. So there's this kind of the same people who are in Taking Back Our Freedoms are also the same people who are involved in Alberta separatism, and they're from Alberta, and kind of like they all kind of crisscross, right? These Alberta
Hmm.
separatists. So Danny Bulford at the time when he was an RCMP constable. He was stationed in Ottawa. So he's from Alberta, stationed in Ottawa, going to the biker church, and he knows local Ottawa people.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, so so he's there, and he contacts Chris Guerra, and basically this whole adopt a trucker thing gets formed. Anyways, that's how Thomas O'Connor gets hooked up with me. He contacts me and says, Chad, the truckers are freaking out. It's going to be minus 35 tonight. They're running on fumes. There's no fuel. Tamara promised them that they'd get free fuel, and she's missing, and nobody knows how to contact her, and nobody knows where she is. What the hell's going on? And he goes to me. I know a trucker, or I know like a fuel provider, but the fuel provider will only provide fuel if he knows that there's a corporate entity that exists. And I'm like, what? I'm like, why will he only provide fuel if he knows a corporate entity exists? And Freedom Corp existed at the time. It was like 2 days old, something like that. No, it was 1 day old. It was like, or not even. Maybe it was that day. So he like phones me freaking out like this, and he's like, a lot of people are scared and freaking out and angry and feel betrayed, and so Uh, I said, okay, whoa, 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 calm down. I believe in this cause. So I gave a local gas station my credit card, and I just said, whoever goes, like if slip tanks go there and fill up, um, I'll pay for it until something's figured out. And this is how I believe this group trusted me. Like they were like, holy crap, this guy really like,
Some random guy we gave a call
yeah,
to
yeah,
in Saskatchewan.
he's just helping us, right? And
Hmm.
this is me think, because I'm like, why did they trust me so much? And that's probably why. um and some people started to steal from me, like some people who found out that there was free gas would start to pull up and like fill up on my dime and just take
Yeah.
off. But I specifically said, people who can get their own diesel, people who aren't trapped behind barriers, people who can leave and get their own gas, they're not allowed. Only people who are trapped behind barriers, can't leave, are running on fumes, and have to get gas from slip tanks, only they are can like fill up on my dime. And so I
Yeah.
think it was about 3 to 4 thousand bucks. And then we switched over to a fuel provider. And then I gave Tamara instructions on how to pay that fuel provider, because he delivered about 6,500 liters of diesel. He dropped it off at Coventry. Some slip tanks pulled up, filled up,
Yeah.
and went in. I think that's.
That's
I
where my
think
fuel guys went in, and yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
But
So
but
so
so you're doing all this from the background. You're doing
I'm
all
doing
this in
this
the
from
back.
Moose
You're not
Jaw.
even in Ottawa yet.
No, I'm not in Ottawa yet. No.
How did you get to Ottawa?
Um, so so basically, Tamara sends me an email and she says, "Hey Chad, can you help these guys figure out how to get here?" Because I knew of an airline that was going to Ottawa. I knew of that by this crazy coincidence because I asked the best man from my wedding, like which is now 29 years ago. I'm like, "Hey, have you seen what's going on in Canada?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have." Um, our friend Perry's there, and he's passed away since then. But Perry is a friend of mine since childhood, and I contacted him, and he said, "Yeah, I'm here. It's crazy. Right across the hallway from me, these people flew out." And I'm like, "Oh, can you give me their names? I want to figure out who that is." It just happened to be that the people across the hallway from my childhood friend was James Peloso from Taking Back Our Freedoms and Tasha Fishman from Taking Back Our Freedoms. So they said, "Yeah, this is how we flew out." So I knew of an airline that was flying people out. I um and then so the email Tamara sent me, there was a Zoom link in it. It was for lawyers. I said to her, I should probably go on this Zoom call with all these lawyers and tell them that there's a corporation now and that they should probably use it and make sure things flow through it properly. And I had logged into the Zoom meeting, and Keith Wilson was in the Zoom meeting, and that was February 1st. The next day, I organized a flight for the lawyers, not me. I wasn't going.
Okay.
I couldn't go. I didn't want to. Well, did I want to go? Of course, I wanted to go to like the Freedom Convoy, right?
It was a
Who
blast.
didn't?
Of course you wanted.
Yeah, but I had a job and I couldn't just quit, right? So the next
Yeah.
day, Tamara wants somebody out there to help her with the money because she's freaking out. She's going missing in action. She's not answering her phone. She's not answering her emails. No one can figure out where she is. And she starts texting me and phoning me at work saying, "Can you please come? I really need help. Please come." So I phoned Helen and I said, "I can't go. Can you go? Can someone who knows about money go there and help her?" I was also like I said to Tamara, "Don't you have anybody there that can help you?" Like I was just so surprised that like a teacher from Moose Jaw was like the only guy who could help. Like I'm a nobody, I'm nothing. And that's also why I thought this was grassroots. But finally she phones me and she's like, "Hey, I'll take care of you and your family. Don't worry about it. I'll make sure you're fine. Please come out, please." I talked to my wife. My wife hated the COVID mandates. Our kids were suffering because of them, like physically and their activities and all sorts of things. And she basically said, "Yeah, go." And when I came home, my bags were packed by my wife, and she's
Mm,
like, "Go get him, Tiger." And so
nice.
the flight that was basically flying across Canada touched down. Oh yeah, and Tamara said, "Hey, can you get Dwayne, my husband, on there too? Because I miss him. I've been here and I miss him." So I had the plane touch down in Medicine Hat, pick up him. Then I went to Saskatoon, picked up Andre Mamari and Tim Turple. Then it flew down south to Regina and then picked me up. And then off we went. We picked up Allison Pajovic, who's a JCCF lawyer too. So that's how I ended up going.
Okay.
But
So
Tamara
so
was
now
freaking out
we've
about money and not really knowing what to do. And I think she just was frozen and
and that's understandable. There was a
yeah.
big there's a lot of shit going on. A lot of
Mhm,
people were out there. Everybody was busy. Nobody knew. They didn't write a friggin' manual for all of this. Understandable.
mhm.
Now,
And I trusted everybody. I didn't think anybody was bad. I was my I think my eyes, like my spectacles were colored from the initial contact that I had. Like I knew Chris Guerra. I would trust that guy with my life.
mm-hmm.
I knew him from a long time ago. And then
Yeah,
Helen and Christina, they just seemed like just normal people with no agenda. Yeah, so I was like, yeah, I'm not getting involved in anything weird, you know?
right. So all of that aside, convoy happens. Everybody's going through their shit. I get arrested. Tamara gets arrested. Chris gets arrested. Everything goes sideways, and money's frozen. All of that stuff. Now, you did something in the background to, well, not in the background, nothing nefarious. This is not where I'm going with it, but you were trying to alleviate pressures on people and doing things. Explain. Now, I want to bring this up because this one is a big one for me, and I can't believe you did this. I find this out later. I'm gonna go here. Let me just pull this up really quick. I want to bring this out. This is, where is it? Which one is it?
And by the
Sorry,
way,
guys.
I just want to say while you're looking for this, all the protesters that were in the street, sleeping in their cars, sleeping in their
Got it.
trucks, they were all a part of something that I believe was completely 100% innocent. I think there were some people that were acting like morons. Like you probably shouldn't buy a train horn and honk it. Like that was a bad idea. But most of the people there, most of the people, like people who donated money to it, they weren't criminals. They were
Right.
great people. These are people who worked all their lives and now they can't visit their parents or their grandparents in nursing homes because they're told that everyone's gonna die, like you're gonna sneeze on someone and kill them, and people were questioning that, and that's what most of the people at the protests were. They were good people. It was a good protest.
It
It was
was.
it was it was legitimate and it was absolutely necessary. I will think that till I'm dead. I don't care what anybody says.
I
It's
agree.
just
I agree 100%. But what happened in the background? So I want to bring up. This is where I come in, and this is why I wanted to bring Chad on because, as a lot of you know, I have had to beg for lawyer fees. Okay, I have had to. I spent 5 months in jail in some of the most harshest conditions in I think any protester history. But at the same time, I did it. I knew what was going on. But at the same time, I didn't have funds to get out of jail. I didn't have anything. Well, all these people had all these lawyers in JCCF, but Chad did something I didn't even know of until Chad and I started talking last year and a half ago or whatever, when we really started. I think it was even more than that. But Chad did something, and I want to bring this to your attention is because as people were going at Tamara, asking Tamara, why are you not helping Pat? Like, you guys threw him under the bus. He's like, you left him behind. He's got no help. Tamara's supposedly trying to help. And I say supposedly because it gets a little bit more speculative at how much was even being, pushed to help. Now, I understand Tamara did throw my lawyer some money. You're absolutely right. Tamara did help with the fundraiser when I got thrown in under my breach the last time. We don't know all the allegations to that. At the same time, I do understand that things were done. But we know things behind the story with JCCF. And JCCF is supposed to represent Canadians who's had their constitution, their charter rights violated, and JCCF steps up to the plate. Now, I'm going to show everybody this, and this is right here where Tamara's trying to tell Chad, and these are text messages between Tamara and Chad. Tamara's saying, okay, yeah, it's pretty shitty what's happened to Pat. Here's Natasha's email for people to donate. And Chad says, I found $100,000 that we can access to help Pat. And Chad, I'll let you take it from there.
Well, so this is a group of messages that basically what Tamara's doing is she's complaining about JCCF. What happened at the time is that you were still in jail, and you were in
Yeah.
jail for a long time. How long were you in jail?
5 months to the day.
Yeah, so you were in jail for 5 months, and nobody knew when you were going to get out, and you were just in jail on remand. You hadn't been accused. You hadn't been found guilty of anything. You were just waiting.
I haven't even given a fair bail hearing at that point.
Yeah, you hadn't even gotten a bail hearing. You were just rotting in jail. No one even knew if you were going to get out or when you were going to get out. It kind of looked like you were going to end up like the Coots guys.
Mm-hmm.
And people started to go to Tamara and say, "Where's your voice on this? We don't care if you're scared to talk. Like, you need to say something. Who cares about your differences or whatever? How can you abandon this guy?" It was really getting to her, like, bad. Um, and so she texted me and she's like, it's not my fault. It's JCCF. It's the Democracy Fund. I asked them to help Pat, and they don't want to help him. And she's like, you know, screw these guys. I'm not going to take the Freedom Award they're going to give me. And she's like, I feel like going back to jail and screw them and all this stuff. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like, calm down. I'm like, maybe there's a way to help. Maybe there's a way to like get some money. And then I said, look, the lawyers figured out how to dip into the donation funds. They paid a lawyer, a good lawyer, a guy who did his job good, a guy named Norm Groot.
Yeah.
He applied to the court and this is how Norm Groot normally does business, because Norm Groot usually deals with proceeds of crime. Okay. When the government when the government takes over funds like from a drug bust, and the drug dealer needs defense or something like that, maybe he can't dip into those funds to help the guy, but he does work and then he gets paid through the funds that are available. This is what he did, right? And so I just said, JCCF's contract with us says that they're supposed to pay for the fees, and our donated funds are not proceeds of crime. Like,
Right.
He should, you know, by all rights, he shouldn't have paid himself $100,000 from the donations, like the convoy donations. JCCF should have paid him $100,000. So in an email to Keith Wilson and John Carpe, the president of JCCF, I just said, look, I feel like there's been a mix up here. You guys took $100,000 from the convoy pot. You should have paid it from your own pot. Can we have that money back? And then I said to Tamara, if we get the money back, maybe we can help whoever we want, like Pat King. This was the end for me. After I proposed, like, I didn't mention your name or anything. I just brought up contract. Like, there was a contract swap too. So the original contract said certain things. It had a bunch of promises. Then they said, we want to swap that original contract that has these promises with another contract that takes those promises away. And I also brought that up too. I'm like, why did you swap the original one that promised us the star, moon, in the sky with this crappy one? And so in that, and I said, you know, maybe you should give us that 100,000 and we can do what we want with it.
Right.
And then so they retaliated on me.
I'm going to pause you at that point. I'm just going to pause you at that point, and I want to play a video for everybody right now, because JCCF and Tamara were buddies and tight. Chris as well. And these guys were supposed to go to bat for anybody who was, and a lot of people have heard this already, but I'm going to put this up for you guys so everybody hears this, and this is for everybody to just have a listen.
Fine, thanks.
Oh, that's good. I was actually just curious, calling about the bank accounts that have been frozen. Are you able to help with that sort of stuff? For the
What's this related to?
Well, there was the
related to the convoy or something different?
Yeah, because there's a bank account that has been frozen, and we're trying to get that resolved, and I was told you might be the person that can assist us with that. And I'm willing to pay and help us, because basically my friend's unable to, his child support checks aren't able to clear out of his account, and he can't even open a bank anywhere. And even some of his disability checks, they won't deposit, or he can't cash or pay anything. It's been quite a predicament he's in. And I've been advised and told by some other good friends that you were successful in assisting them on having that changed in some way, shape, or form that can allow a person to go buy groceries and pay their bills.
Is this a TD account?
No, it was, I believe it's an Alberta Treasury bank account, sir.
Okay. And who referred you to us?
My friend Tamara, Tamara Leach, I talked to her this morning.
Okay. So I'm Tamara's lawyer on part of this.
Oh, okay. Well, it's really nice to meet you, and you know, I'm just trying to help out a friend here that's in it's in basically the same situation, I believe, and he.
What, is the friend Patrick King?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay, we can't act for him. We
Really?
can't do anything for him.
No. Is there any I was going to help, pay you to help, or?
Yeah, no, we can't act for him. He's the Justice Center or whatever these guys are, who we ultimately report to, and who we report to for Tamara, have strictly instructed us not to deal with him.
But I'm just thinking, as a private lawyer, can't we hire you to help us?
All right. So I wanted to bring that up because, as you know, Tamara, JCCF, Keith Wilson, all these guys were delegated to represent us. And this, to me, was a blatant, I don't know how to say it, but more of a blatant screw Pat. We don't care. We're not going to help him at all.
Well, so from what I get from that audio is Tamara is talking to your friend there. She says, "Oh, phone this lawyer." That's Norm Groot, I believe.
Yeah.
So he does.
That is Norm Groot. Yes.
So he phones him, and Norm Groot says, "Well, the lawyer, Tamara's lawyers."
No, he's Tamara's lawyer.
Yeah,
but
I'm Tamara's lawyer.
JCCF strictly instructed him not to represent me.
Yeah, so why would she tell your friend to phone them if they now I think what you got to understand, Pat, is what he's telling your friend is that he's a subcontractor for JCCF. That's what he's telling you.
Yep.
And that JCCF is Tamara's lawyer, and Tamara's lawyers won't represent you and her at the same time. Now, why would Tamara tell your friend to phone her lawyer who won't represent you? Either she didn't know that at the time, or or if she did know, she was just yanking your chain and pretending to try to help you. I don't know.
And this is where I've been trying to ask questions, but at the same time, I'm being told that kick rocks, right? Mm-hmm. So this is why I wanted to have you on the show, because I don't know if you knew that I had that recording. I've had that recording. I've been sitting on it for 3 years, 2.5 for sure, 2.5 years. And I've been struggling for lawyer fees. I've been struggling to get help. I've been trying everything I can. I'm still $26,000 left in to Natasha, as well as people can see down here, Pat King Appeal Fund. I'm being appealed on all my charges from the Crown. So I'm still struggling to find avenues to get funds to my lawyers. So now this is something I've been hit with all along, but you know some of the inner workings because the lawyers have gone at you. These JCCF lawyers have gone at you. Keith Wilson has gone at you.
Yeah. So basically, after Tamara made gave me these texts or whatever, I took them at face value. I trusted them. I thought she really was concerned. I didn't think, oh, this is her just pretending to care about Pat King. And so I asked JCCF and Keith Wilson to explain the first contract and then the contract swap and why they took $100,000 out and paid Norm. And if they could give us that money. Anyways, the lawyers talked to each other. They must have decided this guy's got to go. And instead of Tamara saying, whoa, he's only doing this because he's trying to help me help Pat. He's only doing, this was my idea that like she didn't do that. She joined them and came up and was a part of this plan to discredit me and basically it got ugly. Like the discrediting of me got ugly, like just because of this, for me trying to help you. And by the way, just to go back to the very beginning of this podcast, is like at the time, the last interaction I had with you, we did not like each other. And I
Right.
was just trying to, I didn't believe that you should be rotting in prison though. So out of principle, out of like basic decency, basic humanity, I'm like, should a guy just rot in prison forever? No, I don't believe in that, even if we had a bad interaction. And I was trying to help. I thought I was trying to help Tamara. Then these guys retaliated after I asked them about money and stuff, and she joined them. Part of the discrediting of me was just like a few weeks before that. Tamara texts me and she's like, uh, they're like, "Hey, we want to go on a Zoom call with you." And we had a Zoom call, and at the end of the Zoom call, Tamara and Keith are like, "We have a surprise for you. We're going to give you money because we love you and we care about your family, and we know you've gone like few months without a salary or anything, and you don't have a job anymore." Like, right? Because I flew out to Ottawa and just like was a volunteer trying to help and stuff like that. So they gave me money. They like e-transferred it to me, went right into my bank account, and then after I tried to help you, they accused me of stealing that money.
Right.
Like, this is how like nuts it was. And I'm just like, who are these people? I'm like, who the heck are these nutcases? And I'm like, who does that? Who freaking, like, I don't know.
So you get attacked, you get accused of stealing money after they send you money. You're going to bat trying to see if they can release funds to help me and my lawyer fees. All the while we're getting in the background, yep, we're here to support him. We're here to help, you know, and in that text message is like, yeah, Chad, there's ways to donate to Natasha. She can pay all this. But guys, there's another piece to this puzzle as well, where Chris was even advocating for me in the background. And from the circle that I have of people that were telling me that Chris was going to them and saying, hey, you know what, we should be helping Pat. And JCCF then went and said, you're not going to get half of your funding now because you're wanting to help Pat. What was it? Like, and I'm not asking.
How do you know that? Did Chris?
Because I was told from a very reliable source that Chris was asking, why are we not helping Pat? And they were told Chris, well, if you keep bugging us, we're going to pull away your funding. And they ended up pulling half of Chris's funding away, and Chris was stuck having to raise the other half of his lawyer fees on his own. And in that, this is where I'm going with this, is these two people, okay, who are claiming to be united with everybody, understanding that they're being railroaded as well. I'm being railroaded. Other people are being railroaded. Funds aren't being allocated. JCCF is denying to represent people. JCCF is representing them at the same time. Why are you saying one thing, but then in the background, you're not going to bat to help me or help others? You're only worried about yourself, but in the public eye, you're looking like you're helping me. But in the background, you guys had the tightest connection to JCCF that could say, hey, look, and I seen a couple comments in there about exactly he was representing Tamara, so he can't represent Pat because it's a conflict of interest. There never was a conflict of interest. That's not what it was. They had already had their bank accounts unfrozen 3 weeks after they were frozen. This man was done. He could have still represented me. But
yeah, there's going to always be.
Was they went in and instructed him to not represent me.
Yeah.
Now that's bullshit. In my mind, JCCF is the biggest sons of bitches in my mind at this point, and I'm pissed off. But you've got the other two saying that they are, you know, we're friends, we're all advocating for you, but yet you're scared to go and fight for these guys and not even bring up the fact that they're doing this, yet you know all about what they're doing. This is where I'm having a hard time when it comes to, are we on the same side? So when I reach out to them to say, hey, look, I understand we got differences and shit, but we could be a pretty strong, formidable team if we show this unity. And you get Chris sending messages saying it's going to be drama. We don't want nothing. you have your own show, go watch it, kick rocks. Like
Mhm.
that became
I think there's
a
always going to
double
be
tap.
these people in the comments. There's always going to be these people that don't like, you know, they're like me the way that I was before I got attacked with false accusations and discrediting and all that sort of thing. There's going to be people in the comments who were like me years ago, who like had rose-colored glasses on, trusted everybody, thought we were all like on the same side, blah blah blah. And then I just tried to like reconcile these weird differences and the contract swap and try to help you. And then they're like, we need to get rid of this guy.
Right.
Let's do whatever we can to get rid of him. And I'm like, but that's not what the good guys do. You know what I mean? Like you don't like that's outrageous.
And that's my
this is how
point,
this
Chad. You were brought in as a good guy. You helped every way possible that you could have, and they've done the same thing to you as they've done to me.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, I was told that like John Carpe himself, the president of JCCF, put my name in an email. He's like, Chad Eros, Tamara Leach, Chris Barber, blah blah blah. Thank you for doing what you do for democracy and blah blah blah. And we're gonna cover your criminal like anything criminal against you, anything civil against you, we're gonna help you. We're gonna pay for your legal fees, blah blah blah
I
blah
have
blah.
those text messages. I have where they're saying Chris is going to be represented. I have where they say you're going to be represented, where everybody's being represented. I have those text messages.
Okay, so I just want to you need to listen to this, you guys.
Okay.
So days after we get back from Ottawa from the protest, I don't think everybody's like 100% evil and 100% good. People have things go on in their brains, they freak out, and they do dumb stuff. So Keith Wilson did a good thing, I think. He had phoned me and he said, "Hey, this lawsuit's been updated and a bunch of more people have been added," and I think his heart was in in the right place. And on February 20th, 2022, he's like, I want a bunch more people added to this JCCF contract. I want you personally and this person personally, and I want this person personally. So he goes to me, this is what I want you to do. I want you to send me and Eva Chipiuk, a JCCF lawyer, and like she's an employee of JCCF, copy her and say that you want all these people added to the original contract, and then I'll reply, I agree. Okay. And then I did. I said, okay, hey, as a signatory on the original contract, I agree to have all these people added to the original contract, right? That means I'm okay. I don't see any conflict of interest. Okay, this is going to this person in the comments saying, "Oh, conflict of interest." So I'm saying, as an original signatory on a contract or a retainer or whatever you want to call it, add these people. I'm okay with adding it. Keith Wilson, as a signatory for the original contract, says what Chad says is true. I want these people added, right? So
Yeah.
there's that. That's February 20th. Then 4 days later, like I think Keith woke up one night and had a heart attack and forgot that in the original contract, he promised to pay all costs awarded against us personally. Like that was in the original contract, that if, and there's going to be like hundreds of people that see this podcast that don't understand what costs awarded against means. It means in a lawsuit, there's a winner and a loser, and the loser has to pay the winner's legal fees. Do you understand that? So if the loser spent $250,000 on legal fees, then the loser has to pay that $250,000.
Here is
And
the email, ladies and gentlemen, of the contract.
Yeah, so I think after Keith wanted all these people added to the original contract, he probably woke up at night and went, I can't do that. Like if we lose, I'm going to go bankrupt. So then on February 24th, he calls this emergency meeting, and at the emergency meeting on February 24th, he badmouthed JCCF. So Eva Chipiuk and Keith Wilson are in the Zoom call. He's like, John Carpe's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's a moron. You should fire him. Fire him. Fire JCCF. Get rid of this contract. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to this
Mm.
call, right? And I'm like, you want us to fire JCCF? They're like, and everybody should know this. Tamara Leach was in jail at the time. You were in jail at the time. A lot of people scattered and just went home and like were like, they saw people get beat up and all this stuff. And they
Yeah.
were so I started running the Facebook page. I like got the passwords for the Twitter account, started running the Facebook page, and I was dealing with all the lawyers. I was dealing with Norm Groot. I was like, whatever they needed to help legally with you guys, it was going through me, everything. Because there was nobody there. People were in jail, arrested, scared to do something. So so it was almost gonna, so the people that were there in the meeting to fire JCCF was Tom Marazzo. Tom Marazzo knows that Keith Wilson told us to fire JCCF. Danny Bulford, he knows that Keith Wilson badmouthed JCCF and told us to fire them. Um, Thomas O'Connor was there. He witnessed that too. Chris Barber said he was going to go to the meeting. He said, "Yep, I'll be there. I'll be there at this meeting. See you there." But he didn't show up. He didn't
Mm.
show up to vote to fire JCCF. And everybody bought Keith's line to fire JCCF except me. And I said, "Whoa, you're not firing JCCF. We have no money. We can't raise money. All our funds are frozen. Tamara's in jail. We're not firing them. Let's just ask them some questions. And if they answer the questions nicely, then we'll stay with them. If not, fine." And this Keith Wilson was doing a Jerry Maguire. He was like, fire JCCF and come with me. Come with me and
Mm.
Eva Chipiuk. He was literally going to take like a girl from the office. Maybe there wasn't a goldfish involved, but he's like he's like he's like Eva is gonna quit JCCF and come with me over to my firm, and then you guys can all hire me and I'll take care of you. And I'm like, how are we gonna pay you? We have
Right.
no money. We have no way to raise money. And I just did Facebook posts on the Freedom Convoy 2022 Facebook page saying donate to JCCF. Listen to this. I did Facebook posts telling people to donate to JCCF on the Freedom Convoy page. 450,000 subscribers. I'm telling people to donate to them. Do you think they're listening to me? Probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's money going because I'm saying this, and I'm like, no. And so we voted against firing JCCF. Now, Keith must have hung up the phone or logged off of Zoom and went, shit. He didn't fire JCCF and expunge that contract that says if they lose, I'll pay their costs. Do you see what? So I'm just like this pain in the ass for this guy. I didn't know that. I didn't know I was a pain in the ass for him. I wasn't suspicious of him. I liked Keith. I thought he was my friend. We talked like almost every day, and he like probably blew a bunch of smoke up my ass and made me feel important or whatever, and made me trust him and think that he was going to be on my side till the day I died and that we were going to be buddies and stuff like that. But then when I tried to help you, he basically Tamara was with a group of people. Some of them were directors on Freedom Corp. They saw her phone buzz. It said Keith Wilson. She took the phone, went off to the side, came back, and said, "Oh my God, you guys, we got to fire Chad."
Oh.
Yeah, after I tried to help you, we got to get rid of Chad. Keith Wilson says so. Now, what lawyer gets to run the nonprofit he represents? What lawyer gets to say, this is what you do, this is what you don't do? Here's what you
Yep.
can say, here's what you can't say. And you're still going to get people in the comments that are going to say, well, he's the lawyer. He doesn't want you guys to get arrested. He doesn't want you guys to get sued further. He doesn't want blah, 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 blah. But guess what? I just did a bunch of work with Norm Groot so that we could raise money again. I got a bank to agree to open a bank account for us so we could emancipate ourselves from these lawyers, raise our own money, do our own thing. Then what happens is there's like a shift in the directors, and Dale ends up as one of the signatories. but he quit working for Joe Jansen, who's the president, and he started working for Chris Barber. So those three start fighting. And Chris Barber is like this big advocate, even doing like commercials for JCCF on his site. And I'm like, "Okay, Dale, you need to go in and be the second signatory so we can open our own bank account and raise our own money." Well, he won't do it. He wouldn't sign the papers so we could open a bank account, raise our own money, and help whoever the hell we wanted. So I'm like, why won't you do it? Why won't Dale, who works for Chris Barber, who wasn't even a director anymore because he was too scared to be because he thought he would get arrested. I'm like, why won't you go into the bank and just simply sign your name so we can open a bank account and raise money? Like, is this guy that lazy and that stupid that he can't sign his name on a piece of paper? Like, dude, just put an X if you can't do your signature. But he wouldn't even do that. So even though we could raise our own money and help whoever we wanted, and I signed the papers, Dale wouldn't. And he was working for Chris Barber. Someone explained that to me. So we had to rely on these lawyers. We had to. Like, it was all twisted, messed up, sabotaged, people wanting this money, that money, killing a movement, like just so they could be buddies with important lawyers who were introducing them to important people. And
Yep.
like promising to get them a meeting with this important person and that important person, and you can sit at the table beside this person, and we'll take a photo of you with them, and then you can post it on your website and you can feel important. And I just watching all this, and I'm just like, it's dead. Everything's dead.
Yeah.
Everything's dead.
And that's what I sat back and I watched, because I'm silenced and I'm watching everything implode on itself, and I'm watching everybody at each other, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I didn't have anything to do with the money, thank God. And that's one of the things I wanted to make sure that this live was going to clarify for everybody. We knew that already, but at the same time, I wanted people to see that there was some things in the background that, ladies and gentlemen, you weren't understanding. Now, I've been messaged by Keith Wilson, and this was back in February 2024, by Keith telling me that he didn't ever work for JCCF, but he was calling all the shots for everything JCCF was doing. Now, I've seen John Carpe. I looked John Carpe right in the eye when I was at the Tucker Carlson meeting, and John Carpe was sitting right up front, and I know how much it was to sit in those seats. And I can tell you this much, because I was sitting in those seats thanks to an amazing friend of mine who said, no, you're going to be a part of this. I don't care what anybody says. And it was all about having me in front of those people so that I can finally look these people in the eye. And I still remember looking John Carpe in the face saying, I know what you did. I know what you guys have done to me, and I know exactly how you guys are working. I said, and John's like, oh, I didn't do anything. Lo and behold, John gets disbarred. He gets his accreditation taken away. There's a lot of things, ladies and gentlemen. Now you got Eva Chepiak. Is she not in fights with JCCF, or was fired from JCCF or something like that?
Yeah, well, yeah, from what I heard, so Tamara Leach, like what do I believe, right? Like, all I can do is tell you what I was told. Apparently, John Carpe fired Eva Chepiak because John Carpe blamed Eva for Tamara switching teams. She switched from JCCF over to Rebel News. So, and John Carpe was like, oh, that's your fault, Eva. Like, Tamara was our poster child, and now she's the poster child for Rebel News, and you're fired.
Now you're getting it, folks. Like I said, the cash cow. They're only holding on to the cash cow. They don't give a shit about Tamara. Tamara, they don't give a shit about you. And you've seen this. This is why I'm trying to say this. I'm not trying to come down on them. I'm not trying to attack anybody. We're not coming at Tamara. But at the same time, she has to be smart enough to know that they are using you, and they are going. And this is my prediction, Chad. This is what I've been saying, is now that Rebel's gone and said, hey, you know what? We're going to hire Tamara on as our, as one of us and work with us. at some point, there's going to be an incident. Tamara's going to get thrown back in jail, and then they're going to utilize the fact that Tamara is in jail to raise more money for Rebel
Well,
Media. Now,
okay.
that's a conspiracy that I've got.
Yeah. And just like to keep it like factual, just facts. Like no one can argue.
Sorry, this is
After
I fear for these people because they're not.
don't she. So after she said I should go back to jail, I said, well, like if you're gonna go back to jail, don't like, I was like, don't purposefully breach your bail conditions to go back to jail. Like speak out on like a noble cause. It's in my texts with her. So after she said, I think I want to go back to jail and all this stuff because Pat King's in jail, blah blah blah, I texted Keith and I said, look, Keith, Tamara is really distraught about Pat King. She's talking about going back to jail again, la la la. Now, I'm going to speculate, maybe that put something in their head because after Tamara Leach talked about being willing to go back to jail, they had the Freedom Awards and she links arms with Tom Marazzo and John Carpe. John Carpe took the picture.
Yeah.
He took the picture of Tamara linking arms with Tom Marazzo, which put her in jail. This is according to Tamara Leach and her interview with Tommy Robinson. She told Tommy Robinson, John Carpe took the picture of Tom Marazzo and me. So then she goes back to jail, and the instant she goes back to jail, John Carpe sent out a mass email, and I got it. Hey, donate to JCCF so we can get Tamara out of jail. Duh, what do you think happened there? I mean, I can't tell people what to think. All I can tell people is what happened. That's what happened, people. You can say, oh, Chad's only saying this because he's jealous and he wants the spotlight. You can say all these stupid grade school idiotic things. That actually starts to make me feel like I like lose my faith in humanity. Or you can just look at what the facts are and you can decide. Now,
And that's where I'm gonna bring this up, and I want to show people because this is JCCF. So, Chad, what are we looking at here? Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, Employees and Compensation.
So this is a chart that I put together from data that's right off of the government website. So you can go to it's like search, if you Google search for a Canadian charity.
Yeah.
You can look up Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms and all their financial data is there. So the financial data over 2018, 19, 20, 21 was there, and I put all the numbers into an Excel sheet and I created these charts, and this is what they are. So during the COVID years, they did really well because for lack of better words, and this is just the way I'm going to put it, I don't really care what people think. They used poster children, said, oh, this poor person needs your support. This poor person needs your support. Donate to JCCF. Donate to JCCF. Heck, I even did it. I said on the Freedom 2022 Freedom Convoy 2022 Facebook page when I was running it, donate to JCCF. I did it too because I thought they were going to help us. Like I said, back then I trusted everybody. I thought everybody was acting in good faith, and I had no reason to believe that they wouldn't. And this, as you can see, like 2020 is the COVID year. It starts to ramp up. 2021, they got a ton of donations, and 2022 it like peaks right there, right? And so it's color coded, and I can't really see what I think it's basically sources of income, right?
So you got gifts with tax receipts in the dark blue. You got cash from sale of assets. There's barely any. The dark line is revenue from sale of goods and services. Orange or yellow is gifts from other charities. The pink is gifts with no tax receipt issued.
So that would have been like just someone dropping off money and you don't know who they are, right?
Correct.
Anonymous.
And then you get into their expenditures. So exactly what they've spent. and we're upwards of $9 million. But I'm not understanding how this chart works. I can make this available to people later on, but this is a chart that's showing, and all we're showing is the increase of how these people are making their money, like Chad said, off poster children that they're utilizing, and they're not representing the true, like the real people. They're only representing.
COVID was good for them. In other words, COVID was good for them. So when people say donate to help this person, who's getting the money? The person? The person is not getting the money.
Yeah.
The
Rebel did the same.
lawyers
Rebel raised
okay?
4 million, and none of it went to anybody that was supposed to get it. This is another thing that's I've exposed a while back. A lot of us have brought it up. Rebel did the same thing, and now Rebel says, okay, we're going to sign the poster child Tamara, bring her on, and they're going to make it mass profit again. And then they're going, yeah.
So do I think it's bad that these people get the money? No, like it's not necessarily bad, but if you get money to help someone, if you listen to me, if you get money to help someone, you work your ass off for that person. That's what you do. When my customers pay me, when my clients pay me, I need to work my ass off for them. I need to do the best I possibly can. Whether it's donated to me or whether the person pays me directly, you work your ass off for these people and you do what you promised to do. You don't look for a way to weasel out of it. You got money, like you got free money, okay? You you got donations or free money. You didn't work for it yet. You didn't work for it yet when you get donations. So if you say we're going to be the champions of fighting COVID lockdowns, we're going to be the champions of fighting COVID mandates, give us money and we will kick some butt. If you literally say that and you get millions of dollars, then you do that. And don't do scams. Don't weasel out. Don't do contract swaps. Don't tell me to fire JCCF because there's a clause in a contract that screws you over. So I asked Keith Wilson because when I did the email and I said, what's up with all this stuff, he replied in an email, well, then I quit. I'm just going to help Brian Peckford. Screw you guys, basically. I phoned him. I said, do you mean that? Like, are you quitting? That's it for you? You're done? You're gone? And he's like, well, I stand by my words and stuff like that. No, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to calm down now and stuff like that. And I'm like, and he goes, and by the way, I had to make that promise in that contract. Otherwise, JCCF wasn't going to help at the convoy. They didn't even want to help unless Keith Wilson sweetened the pot and said, look, I'll pay costs awarded against them. Do we have a deal now? That's the only reason why that's according to Keith. Okay, now John Carpe might disagree and he might say, no, I never said that. Keith's lying, or I don't really, that's what he told me. And we talked. I thought we ironed things out. I thought everything was fine. I thought everything was okay. And do you know what I did the next day? I said, hey, everybody, I trust JCCF. I trust Keith Wilson. I'm going to sign the new contract because believing that they will act in good faith and do what they said they're going to do, right? You're taking in millions of dollars to fight COVID mandates. I'm going to trust you. You said you're going to fight for us. Criminal charges, civil charges. I'm going to trust you. And at the end of the day, do you know what JCCF and Keith Wilson did? They said, we never represented Chad. We never agreed to represent Chad.
Yeah.
And Keith Wilson went to the POEC hearing. He was subpoenaed as a witness. He wasn't allowed to be a lawyer because he acted too much like a protester. And the first thing the lawyers did when they were talking to Keith is they said, so you're telling us that a bunch of your clients waived client privilege. They waived client confidentiality. He's like, yep, all of them did. They said, well, Chad Eros didn't. Chad said he didn't. Oh, Chad was never my client. I never acted for Chad. I never advised Chad. Who's Chad? I totally was one of his clients. He totally advised me. His hotel room was next to mine for weeks. Like he never gave me any legal advice. When lawyers do stuff like that, that's really bad. Like you have to be able to have client confidentiality. You have to be able to trust your lawyers not to throw you under the bus. Like otherwise what the heck? Like what's the point of having a lawyer?
Exactly. And this is what I am trying to say is, ladies and gentlemen, albeit some of the other two might not realize it, all along, guys like myself and Chad have been calling out these other ones that are controlling them and manipulating them and creating more problems than what needs to be. Chad comes into this trying to help. I come into this trying to help. We all tried to do this for the right reasons. These people decide to run off with it, make it their own little spectacle. Now they're being whatever they're being. At the same time, we knew that we were being misrepresented. No lawyers were ever being utilized for us. In fact, I was told to go kick rocks. At the same time, oh, but we're helping. We're helping. Don't worry, we're helping. But you can't come out and publicly tell people, and I'm talking about the other two, you can't publicly come out and tell people that these people are manipulating you and talking. Why? What is the big fear? The only way I can see it is you're in on it.
Yeah, and so
That's
at that,
I'm left to speculate.
I want to say this to follow up with that. And I have a question for you, Chris Barber. Look me right here. Why didn't you show up to the February 24th meeting to fire JCCF? Why? You said you were going to show up to vote to kick out JCCF, but then you didn't show up. Why didn't you show up? How come you didn't want to follow Keith's instructions to fire JCCF and give up all the funding that they would have for you? Why didn't you show up? You said you were gonna. Then you didn't. I know why Tamara didn't show up. She was in jail. Who told you not to come to that meeting and why? And I said no. We're not firing them. They're like at the time I just thought Keith's idea was a bad idea. I'm like, no, this is a bad idea. I didn't think he was malicious. I didn't think he had a trick up his sleeve. I genuinely thought that he just thought John Carpe was a weird, awkward nerd and didn't know what he was doing. Just like he said, he's just like, John Carpe has no idea what he's doing. And he's in over his head. He doesn't understand the protest. He wasn't there. I'm one of you guys. He's not. Just fire them and come with me. I literally just took Keith at his word, and I even probably laughed and chuckled a few times because Keith's actually a pretty charming guy. He's funny, he's smart, he can make you laugh, he can tell jokes and insult people in a way that will make you laugh. Like he was really laying it on about John and how we should fire him. And so Chris Barber, he's doing like commercials for JCCF, thanking them every chance he can get. I love JCCF; they're the best ever. But yet Keith and Eva Chipiuk wanted us to fire them, and he wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Maybe he can answer that. I'd love for him to answer that.
I don't think you're ever going to get a straight answer out of them because of the simple fact is they've gotten too far down and too far deeply embedded that it would be catastrophic to who they are and where they put themselves on a platform on a level that it would be absolute. It would be, what's the word? There's a word for it.
There is no answer. Do you know what the answer is, Pat? This is the answer. I was told not to come.
Self-destruct.
Yeah, I was told not to come because you guys were supposed to fire JCCF and then I would get all the funding. Then JCCF could spend all their time on me and all their time on Tamara, and you guys were gone because you idiots chose to fire JCCF. That's the answer. What other answer is there? You know what I'm saying? What other answer is there? And people who are fans of Chris Barber and fans of Tamara Leach and like it's fine. Love them. That's they're but you guys, there are people that were bigger fans of Tamara Leach and Chris Barber than you. I was probably one of their biggest fans. Tamara phoned me from jail, okay? I trusted her, she trusted me. On her way back from Ottawa, she stayed here in my house with my family. She came and visited my family. I thought we were friends. I trusted her. I was a big fan. But at the end of the day, when she got a phone call to throw me under the bus, discredit me, lie about me, she did it. And Tamara, look in my eyes. You did that. You did that.
Look in my
Why?
eyes. You did that too. You did it to me. You did it to us.
I thought you were my friend. I thought you were this hero. But this is what you did. None of the original people from the protest, none of the original people from the convoy are connected to her anymore. Zero.
Yeah.
She's all in with new people now.
We're
Zero.
all still talking. We all still talk. Me, Chris, Joe, Bridget, all of us. Chad, we're all still talking because they have gone.
And you and me didn't even like each other.
Exactly.
We almost killed each other.
Yeah. And this is what I'm saying is when we all witnessed this, guys, what did they do? And Dave, yeah, I see Dave Steenberg in the comments too. She did it to Dave as well. We've all seen this, ladies and gentlemen. And this is why I wanted to do these segments with you guys, because there are bigger things coming down. Okay. There are things ramping up for 2026. And people are going to be flocking or asking, and they are already asking for advice and thinking JCCF is going to be their hero when you need to go into the courts to fight these class actions and all of this stuff. They're not.
Here's my advice. If you're involved with JCCF, if you're involved with any freedom fighting lawyer, if they don't promise to pay costs awarded against you, do not hire them, because that's the only thing that keeps them on the hook to do a good job for you. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Because if you lose your case and they get to take all these donations, let's say people donate $500,000 to JCCF just for you. You have a $500,000 piggy bank to fight your cause. If they lose, they get to keep the $500,000. Even though they did a bad job, they get to keep the $500,000. But if they promise to pay costs awarded against you if they lose, and the other lawyer says, well, you guys lose, so you have to pay my legal fees, then that's an incentive for JCCF or any freedom fighting lawyer to do a very damn good job for you, because then they'll have to pay costs awarded against you. And that's why Keith put that sweetener into JCCF, because if you Google Seneca College JCCF, the judge said, JCCF, you lose. But guess what? I'm not going to let your clients get stuck with the legal bill. I'm going to award costs against your clients, but you have to pay it. Now, they might have appealed that decision, and that might have not been the only decision that JCCF had to pay costs awarded against their clients, because the judge said in his judgment, JCCF, you were the ones pushing this cause. You were the ones encouraging your client to do certain things and to fight this cause in the most expensive way possible. So you're going to pay these costs. Just Google search that, Seneca College, JCCF. They might have appealed it, and the appeal judge might have said, okay, JCCF doesn't have to pay because it was a public interest case, and it, this case was justified under public interest. They might have won that, but this is what the freedom fighting lawyers are scared of, that if they lose their case, they'll take the donations, take the money, take the millions of dollars, but then if they lose, they have to pay the other side's legal fees.
Yeah.
Make them promise to pay those, otherwise you don't have a lawyer.
One of the things one of the things they did during COVID, and this is why I believe that JCCF is feeling their failure to represent me, is because during COVID, when they were representing people who were getting their COVID fines, JCCF had under their contract in the fine print that if at any time awards are deemed, you sign off as us representing you. You don't get any of these payments back. So if they go to a class action lawsuit, they file a class action lawsuit, they get millions of dollars. You don't get anything for that. You don't get any part of that. And that was in the fine print with anybody who signed on with JCCF. And I asked that out during COVID when we were protesting and people were getting fines and we were looking for lawyers to represent them. Why would you say that? These people are entitled to reimbursement of all of this stuff, but in order for you to represent them, they're not entitled to any retribution back or any kind of funds.
Yeah. The contract swap was that for us too. It said, besides taking out the part where we will not pay costs awarded against you, you have to pay your own costs, and they get to be the boss of everything. They're gonna push this case into oblivion, and which means the other side's legal fees are going to get pushed into oblivion too. The other thing that they changed in the contract swap was if you win in court and the court awards you money, we get to take that money and keep it. You get zero.
Yeah.
So they get the donations to pay themselves. They don't have to pay costs awarded against the client if the client loses. That means they lost. They did a bad job and lost. They're not going to pay those costs. And if I win, the judge says, Chad Eros has been harmed by this lawsuit. He countersued, and we find in favor of Chad. We're going to give him $1 million. JCCF's new contract said we get to keep that too. You get zero. Nothing.
Yeah.
And I had questions about that. And they needed to get rid of me. And Tamara went along with it. Tamara, you went along with that. Now you have a job with Rebel News. Good for you.
Right. Well, Chad, we're coming up to the hour and 46-minute mark. I want to I know there's so much more. We barely touched, scraped the surface on this, but one of my things is, dude, you've been through the ringer. You didn't deserve any of the shit you went through. But I want to say you've been a stand-up guy throughout all of it. 100%.
Well, thanks. All I can do is help. The COVID, I know you're talking to your woman there.
Because there was a question. Sorry, she brought up a good point.
Good idea.
The question about the money and how much was actually frozen and what is in the lawsuit. How much money is actually in the lawsuit that they froze out of the GoFundMe?
Yeah, so there's just over $5 million frozen by the class action lawsuit by Zexy Lee and Paul Champ.
But was there not 10 million?
So what happened was the Give Send Go was started. When was it started? It basically on February 4th, when GoFundMe was canceled, on the Freedom Convoy page. So a lady named Cindy Parker was running the Freedom Convoy page, and on February 4th, she said, "Hey everybody, the GoFundMe's canceled. Start donating to Give Send Go." And about $7 million was donated, and it was going to the U.S. Because the owner of Give Send Go was Jacob Wells. I couldn't create a bank account because no banks would open a bank account, and Jacob said, "Well, I'll just hook my Stripe Up account up to the Give Send Go." And as soon as it was announced that GoFundMe was over, millions of dollars started pouring in to Jacob Wells' Stripe account. Now, on February 7th, which is when the actual board of directors was put together, we still didn't have a bank account, but Keith Wilson volunteered to let the money settle to his lawyer trust account because we didn't have a bank account. And this is all public knowledge, or like it can be, it's in the POAC, blah, 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 blah. Like everything is already there. So with that, I started a Stripe account on February 7th. We had a real board of directors on February 7th. Keith Wilson said, I'll let you use my bank account on February 7th. And I started the Stripe account, and the Stripe account I set up received its first donation February 7th. And hours later, I get an email from Stripe basically saying, hey, who are you? Are you the Freedom Convoy? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, we're shutting you down. We're not letting you, we're not going to allow this. So I'm like, okay, they're going to shut it down and refund everybody. This is what I'm thinking. And I contact Jacob Wells, and he on February 11th, he switches it back to the US one. Okay. And that's how $7 million got donated through the US Stripe account and put into a trust account with Jacob Wells. About 3.5 million went into the Canadian Stripe account. So after Stripe said, we're not going to allow you to take donations, and we're not going to allow any payouts, you're shut down, you're closed, they continue to allow donations in. $2.8 million worth of donations went into the Stripe account after they told me they were going to close it down. They didn't refund anybody. And that $2.8 million has been put into the escrow account. So the donors got ripped off by Stripe. The donors got ripped off by Stripe, and Stripe collected $380,000 in Stripe fees from the Canadian Stripe account that they told me they never intended they were ever going to let us have the money. So guess who's going to get welcomed to the lawsuit party?
Strict. Right? And
I think they knew, they must know that this is coming. I told Keith Wilson and the JCCF lawyers this 4 years ago. I said, you guys, you need to get them in this, because they shut down, they said, we're shutting down your campaign, but they continued to take almost $3 million in donations. Now, maybe this is what they were, I don't really know what they were thinking. Maybe they weren't thinking anything. Maybe they're just a bunch of non-thinking goofballs. But if I would have started pushing the refund button, they would get to keep the fees, and I would have to come up, or we would have to come up with $380,000 if we wanted to give people a full refund, and we didn't have $380,000. Like, there's no way, because Stripe wanted to keep their fee, right? So I'm like, okay, you guys are shutting this down, shut it down. Then they didn't, because I think they wanted to keep that $380,000, and they did. They didn't. The Canadian Stripe account collected $3.7 million, and they only gave $3.4 million to the escrow account, and they kept the rest. So that's bad. Anyways, there's $3.4 million from the Canadian Stripe account from the Give Send Go. There's $1.4 million from Tamara Leach and Chris Barber's account. There's $300,000 from Chris Gare's Adopt-A-Trucker account that got scooped, which all adds up to about $5 million. And yes, Mark Carney was on the board of directors of Stripe. Mark Carney also wrote a manifesto against the protesters, and which got published in the Globe and Mail, saying that the full force of the law needed to come down on the protesters. They all needed to be found and arrested and put in jail. And now Mark Carney is our prime minister. Canada, congratulations. You, Eastern Canada, I should say, you elected a corporate banker who uses his influence as I don't want to say evil globalist banker, but he is a globalist banker. That is an actual fact. This is who Canada elected.
So this is where I wanted to go with that too, because I wanted people to understand there are things coming out that we are trying to do. We want stripe a part of this lawsuit so that they are held accountable. Mark Carney had the ability or had the firsthand knowledge of how to do this, and that's how this is happening. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what a way to end it. That's a bang up way to end it. So, in total, in escrow, now you know where it is. They also have $68,000 of mine that is in there as well. And not only that, ladies and gentlemen, there is another forfeiture. So the document that I showed you with the 1.39, there is the Crown sitting on a forfeiture motion to have that 1.39 million or 1.4, let's just round it up, 1.4 million forfeited after the lawsuit. So there is more to this that's going on, and this is why everybody's like, Pat, you're all about this. You're trying to cause division. You're trying to, no, not at all. This is a lot deeper, ladies and gentlemen. This is, like I said, Chad and I are just scratching the surface on this. There is more behind the scenes that's going on.
I have pretty in-depth knowledge of everything. Like, this could be a 10-hour podcast. There's
100%. So that's why I want to say, Chad, thanks for coming on. We're not done with you by no means. We're going to bring you back again for more stuff. But I want to really appreciate and say thanks for coming in, clearing some of the discrepancies that people have had and the questions that people have been had. I've seen the chat's been going off. I usually acknowledge the chat and bring them in, but I think we were doing good. We were flowing really well. Any last thoughts you want to throw in here that you think should be in, and then we'll sign it out.
Yeah, well, I would just say this: everybody, keep your nose clean, be good people, like, do what you say, what you mean, and mean what you say, and keep your promises, and just try the best you can to be a good person, and don't be scammy, and don't be weird. Like love your family, love your friends, do the best you can for each other. Like, I'm no saint. I make mistakes. I get pissy and mad and stuff, but sometimes, and whatever, sometimes I say the wrong thing or whatever, but when you join the dark side and you start doing like really bad stuff, like, there's a difference between being like ornery and like being scammy and weird and stuff. Well, just to explain that forfeiture, because I think most of your audience isn't going to understand what that means. All forfeiture means is that the Crown says, we're going to take that $1.4 million because we think it's connected to crime somehow. And we're going to keep that money. We're going to buy new cop cars, upgrade our office, or whatever, like, I don't know, whatever they want to do. But basically, the Crown gets to keep the money and do whatever the heck they want with that money. It's a very new thing in Canada, this whole forfeiture thing. It's worth a Google search. Do like BC civil forfeiture, BC forfeiture, Canada forfeiture, and what is it? CCLA, Canadian whatever. They're like a civil rights organization. They've been involved in advocating like awareness and advocacy against that. Canadian Civil Liberties organization. They're phenomenal. A lot of people think they're like left wing and stuff, but they advocate for everyone. I believe they're nonpartisan. They're an organization that I would trust, and they'll advocate on both sides of the political spectrum if you believe in that thing. And but yeah, they're trying to raise awareness against this. It's basically kind of like a police state thing. They'll say, well, Tamara got charged with mischief and Chris Barber got charged with mischief, so we're going to take that $1.4 million for ourselves.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. It's not a good thing. And that's a good awareness thing, and we'll leave it at that.
And then, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, I'm still going through my appeal. I haven't said it throughout the whole show, but if you care to help me out, PatKingAppealFund@gmail.com. It goes directly to Brian, my lawyer, and Brian dishes out receipts everywhere you can. Chad, thanks again, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. May the truth prevail.
That's what it's about, my friend. That's why I'm out here. I want to tell the truth, and that's it. Okay, man.
Peace out.